Hello, and welcome to Ask the Unicorn. I'm Ahura Z,
I'm Charlie Alejandro.
and we're answering your questions tonight of all types, whether they be mental, physical, spiritual, metaphysical, mystical, magical, as long as they make sense. I just want to say that. Before we begin asking questions, however, I need to tell you all about a wonderful place to eat. And yes, I'm plugging them because I can. It's my show. It's called Jewel of India, and there are two restaurants here in Maine, and that is South Portland and Biddeford, and they've got the best Indian food ever.
Spicy.
Oh yeah, and why? Because they're both Indian. So it's the most wonderful place. A very celebratory atmosphere, and they show Bollywood movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
We had a blast there. Okay, now getting right to the questions this evening.
Have you talked to God personally? What is that like? Do you communicate telepathically with Him?
Have I talked to God personally? Yes, I do quite a bit. Although I first have to learn how not to talk at God. And you have to listen when God does speak. I've also spoken to the goddess, and you have to listen when she speaks. My own personal experience is not, I don't know what you think of telepathic as, but I can hear God with every fiber of my being. Right. In other words, it's a total experience. It's not a focus my thoughts or anything. It's my whole being speaks, and God is always take you someplace. It's not just about words. It's scenes, it's sounds, it's feelings. It is everything simultaneously. I do my best to show people or portray to people what it is that I experience when God decides that He wants to talk to me in a way that He knows that I'm going to hear, or that she knows I'm going to hear. I do my best. However, anything that I can say would pale in comparison. Remember, you're talking about the creators of all things, including me, including you. Now, I know that there are a lot of people out there that would try to dispute such things, but that is my experience. Your experience may be something entirely different. You may have this wonderful planetary experience, but it will take me about 2 hours to tell you the times that I have experienced something. Mm-hmm. It's not grandiose, it just is what it is. It's a very beautiful experience, and honestly speaking, sometimes kind of terrifying. Mm-hmm. I mean, to the point that it would be very difficult for me to speak with my mouth, not because I'm afraid, but it's just, imagine if you walked outside of your house and saw the whole sky covered by Jupiter. Yeah. It's kind of overwhelming. So there's how I think about it and how I feel about it.
I actually remember reading somewhere where this lady expressed having experienced something similar, and one of the things that she said that I thought was kind of cool, because we only think about things in a physical thing. I have to speak to you for you to hear me. One of the things she said was that when she had her encounter with Christ, it was instantly the communication.
Of course it is.
You didn't have to open your mouth. It was like as soon as she thought it, the answer would come back in her brain.
Yeah.
Kind of
the way that I experience is different. It's not a thought and then thought. It's everything.
Right.
All at once.
Mm-hmm.
There's no... it's just it's a total thing. And you'll have... I've oftentimes had a very difficult... I couldn't do it until later. But you don't know where God ends and you begin. Kind of like that.
That's funny, because she said the same thing. It's funny you said that, because that's one of the things, and one of the things that made me remember it was, she also said it's very hard to explain to someone what that feeling is like.
Well, it is.
Because it's such an immense, or sensations all at once.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Every person has a different experience.
Mm-hmm.
Her experience may be to her own immensity.
Right.
Mine is to my own, and they may match on several levels.
Mm-hmm.
But to try to speak to someone that has actually had that experience, the two people will get, if there's a group of people that have had that experience, they all know what it's like. And
right.
all of them understand equally that it's very difficult to explain to someone.
Mm-hmm.
However, because I have that experience, I can relate it to you to a degree, and you'll get part of the experience.
Right.
That's why it's always it's a challenge to actually explain to someone what that is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not impossible. It's just very difficult, and it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
This other question says, regards to vibrational frequency and chakras, circuits, does each circuit have a corresponding note?
Yes, of course it does.
Mm-hmm.
Every circuit, or a chakra, if you will, has a different vibration, a different color. Therefore, it vibrates and resonates to a different, I guess you would call, note. Remember, even Earth itself vibrates to a certain note, if you will, or a series of notes. Mm-hmm. And which is really interesting, because it's funny that science uses terms such as universe and multiverse. Well, the truth is that those are musical references. Universe is an actual musical reference, meaning one verse or one part of the song.
Really?
The entire song.
I did not know that.
Okay. Remember, we're a chorus. All of the galaxies are a chorus, and we're just one, note in that chorus. Yeah. But that one note is a myriad of things that causes that one note to be.
Right.
Okay. So it's really interesting that science tries to deny mysticism when science itself is based upon mysticism.
Right.
But the universe, all of the chakras that there are have different notes that create the perfect resonance in order for you to live, or in order for each of us to live. Now, altogether, we create just a multitude of things that may hum to a certain resonance. Now, Tibetans know this, or at least the monks.
Right.
Those people, and so do Buddhists, and even those people that are really studying Christianity. I don't mean those people that like throwing books at you and telling you you're a sinner just for being born.
Right.
I mean those people that understand that God is all things, and all things are God.
Right.
And understand that, there are billions, trillions of different expressions. And those expressions each have a different note. Now, if you've ever listened to a really good choir, okay, you can hear not only the notes, but the tones in between the notes.
Right.
And that whole choir creates a whole, okay? All of the different voices create a whole.
Right.
And that whole, depending upon the series of notes that they're singing, can evoke such magnificent feelings, if you will, okay, that have everything to do with you, but nothing to do with you at all.
Right.
Okay? So, understanding that you have 7 major energy centers in your body. However, to be a little more direct, you have hundreds of thousands of chakras. Just the only ones that anybody is ever familiarized with is the major 7. Okay? So we'll start there. You have hundreds of chakras in your hands, your arms, your legs, feet, every place else.
Right.
And all of these resonate at a certain vibration that enable you to do things such as stand, walk, and do other things. When one or more of these chakras become blocked, what happens is you lose activity in that particular region. Now, you need to find a way to get the notes playing again. And if you can get the notes playing again, you'll have activity in that region again.
So it's kind of a way to heal your energy, so to speak?
Of course.
Okay.
Usually when there's a disease, there is energy. There's an energy blockage or non-operability someplace. I think I just made up a new school word. But there's usually a blockage or something's not working.
Right.
Okay? Someplace. And if you can find that which is not working, or even something that is mutated, for instance, if you took the sound away from something, it could cease to be.
Well, that would make sense.
Which is funny that medical science doesn't know this, and if they do know it, they're not sharing it. Because Look.
Well, modern medicine doesn't acknowledge it.
Okay, well, modern medicine, we'll put it that way.
Yeah.
That if you have something that is based upon a physical structure, it's comprised of light, sound, and mass.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, to extract either one of those means that it will cease to be.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take the energy, sound energy, away from something, it would dry up. It just would. It would cease to be. There'd be no life there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you'd have to find a way to do that without actually killing the whole person.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And vibrational frequency is one of those ways that you can extract certain sounds and introduce other sounds.
Mm-hmm.
You know, by creating a person so many times that is perfect. The one that is not supposed to be there has to leave. It's kind of like being pressured all the way around with the right vibration. And if you're the wrong vibration, you have to get out. You know, we see that with places that you've been, people that you've been. You've been to a place where everybody's acting the same way, and then you're that one person that decides to be different, and everyone goes, "What are you doing here, stranger?"
Pretty much.
You know?
And you're like, "I'm leaving." I shouldn't have taken that left.
So it's kind of like that. So each one of them does have a certain note. You just have to find out what that note is. Once you find out what that note is, then you can decide whether you want something to be or not to be. Long explanation, but
it
well
makes
worth
sense.
it.
Yeah. Is there a way to use music and or sound to align our circuits or heal specific circuits?
I think I just answered that with the last explanation.
Yeah.
Of course there is. Now, does that mean that you can go to a seminar or two and learn it? No. No, because you can't come out, because you went to a seminar and got an attunement calling yourself a vibrational frequency master. And no, it takes time. It takes diligence, and it takes listening.
Is that the same as vocal vibrations?
Well, vocal vibrations are one thing. They're only one part of the whole thing. Remember, everything vibrates, and even your vocal cords kind of prove that.
So I remember I had to, when I was a correspondent for a local newspaper, I covered a story on vocal vibration therapy or healing or whatever. And it was kind of a weird experience for me because you go there and then, the lady that's teaching the class or whatever. And she said similar to you, don't think just because you took a 2-hour class that, you can go out and heal the world. But it was kind of funny that she would have each person make a sound.
Yeah.
And that's it. What I found funny, that every sound was so unique to each person.
Well, of course there are. You and I don't sound alike.
Right. And the other thing that got me was the emotions, was when I tried it, because I had to try it because it was weird because I just, you know me, I can't sing to save my life. So just the fact of me making any noises in front of people was nerve-wracking. But the other thing was that when I did, it was just these overwhelming feelings of joy and happiness, and it was weird. And then another person actually was crying.
It's interesting that you would call it weird.
What? The way I felt?
Yeah, that you were feeling joy and happiness. That's weird.
No. I mean, you had heard me making this bizarre noise, and I'm like, like the happiest person in the world. Like I just hit the megabucks. It's just the deepness and the genuineness of the feelings was what really threw me off. I mean, I'm usually a happy person to begin with, but it was almost like they were magnified. And then to see other people, like for example, this one gentleman was reduced to tears as a result of whatever.
Yeah, that
so
does
I found
happen.
that interesting. Why is it that something like that would happen?
Well, because people get trapped,
and
they can get trapped in their own body, and most people really don't know how to use their voice.
No.
Okay, and if you look at most of the music that's out today, there's proof.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't care what any of you people say.
Yeah.
That guy Justin Bieber sucks. He was just, average. Not even average. And most of these people have to use electronic devices in order to make their voices sound and tune.
Yeah.
What is that?
Auto-tunes.
But you have to understand that each person has a voice that is unique to them. Mm-hmm. And truthfully speaking, when someone says vocal vibration is ridiculous, it's just vibration. Mm-hmm. Of course, your vocal cords move; they vibrate, which is what causes the sound of your voice. However, each person has something that resonates with them. Mm-hmm. And if you can get a person to express themselves through their voice, sometimes it could be a little overwhelming. Because most, you're talking about this guy, well, most guys aren't really taught to sing. Most guys are just kind of like, you know, and they do sing, and they want to venture out and sing, but they're told, oh, you can't sing, and no one's ever heard their voice to begin with, so how do you know?
Right.
So they go on believing that they can't sing, and then when they do finally sing, like they've wanted to, it unlocks a whole bunch of things simultaneously.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense.
But each of us have had an experience like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for instance, one of the things that was, my childhood was horrible. It was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the few things that I had that was good was Neapolitan, this coconut Neapolitan candy, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that was the few times in my life that was a good experience.
Right.
So I went on as a child not being able to find it anymore. So I shifted it to Neapolitan ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Right.
So I went all this time thinking they didn't make that candy anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it was, so I forgot a lot of things. Now, a few weeks ago, I finally got a hold of this candy. My cheap pair found it, and I went, I can't believe they still make this.
Mm-hmm.
That was over 35 years. Okay?
Yeah.
That is more than that, but I'm not telling. But anyway, so I got it, and I was telling everyone how I haven't tasted this, and I started eating it, and it gave me the most magnificently beautiful feeling ever.
Right.
And I was sitting eating, and I shared with everyone, and all of those feelings from childhood came up, but then all of those feelings from childhood came up.
Oh, heck, yeah.
So it was like this double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I wound up excusing myself because tears came to my eyes.
Right.
And then later I said, you know, I remembered why it was so beautiful to me. It was one of the few times in my life that I had beauty.
Mm-hmm.
But then the reason that it was beautiful was because I'd just been beaten.
Right.
So even now, you guys can see it just kind of,
Oh, yeah.
you know, but this is what happens to people.
Mm-hmm.
So when that person sang, it doesn't surprise me that all of a sudden he's reduced to tears because he may have had a similar experience.
Wow. That's
And
really
everyone
cool.
has that. You know, we all have that. And in that particular instance, it was his voice. To someone else, it might be candy. To someone else, it might be something else. You know, and each person can relate that, and that has to do with a vibration. Sometimes you bury a vibration, and then when it's freed, you also let go of a lot of other things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, if you take the sound from something, or put the sound into something, it could either activate it or deactivate it. You know, so that doesn't surprise me at all. So, again, long explanation, but it's well worth it.
Here's another one. If you want to change something in your world, would it help to sing about it?
I think I just answered that.
I have to share something with the singing. This is so funny because my daughter Jess, she has a beautiful singing voice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where the heck it came from, but she has this amazing singing voice. And I used to remember she went to a parochial school, and they were teaching her the Beatitudes, and she absolutely hated it because it was very difficult for her to learn it and whatever. So I said to her, well, why don't you sing about them? So she did, and it was amazing to see because she can remember any song after hearing it once. She can play songs from hearing them, you know, like she'll hear a song and then she can pick out the notes on the piano. So it was funny because I said to her, well, sing it. And then it was funny to me to see that not only did she remember them and did really well on the test, but it totally changed the perception where she actually started enjoying learning this certain subject.
Right.
So it's true that you can do a lot just by looking at it differently.
Of course. Yeah. I know a lot of children that are like that. Mm-hmm. One who's very, 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 very talented, Kenzie. She's really talented and just picks up stuff like you wouldn't believe. Mm-hmm. Just got to get her focused. You know, get her focused, she'll be a star overnight. Mm-hmm. But you have to understand, sound motivates a lot of things and runs a lot of things. Sound can produce wind. Ironic, wind produces sound. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those things.
I'm very sound oriented. Like my whole mood will change depending on what I hear.
I can see that.
Like Sunday, Jose, my husband, took me to a play, and I was in a pissy mood for a week. Like, you know, one of these life sucks, throw me off a mountain kind of thing feeling. But it was funny. We went to see this.
Excuse me. She said a bad word.
I did. But it was so funny because when we went to see this play, of course, like I said, I was in a pissy mood to begin with, so I'm like, there's two... I did it again, I'm sorry. I'm bad. So I was in a really bad mood, and then the thing is that, of course, right off the bat, there's this play, and there's only 2 people in it, so I'm like, what kind of freaking play did you bring me to see where there's only 2 people in it for 2 hours? I'm thinking, it's going to be awful. And then it turns out it was a musical. And
with 2 people?
With 2 people. So I'm like, what the heck are they going to do for 2 hours? So, Jose's like, well, maybe they're going to be like, like talking or writing to each other, whatever. Well, he was kind of right, and it actually turned out to be really good. Never mind.
Play,
it was called Daddy Longlegs, and it was at the local theater where we live, at the Merrimack Theater. But it was amazing to me because, number one, the girl could sing like nobody's business, and the guy had a really good voice that complimented her. And the story was very well done, the whole thing. But I'm telling you, after 2 hours of that, I came out of there like totally changed my mood. You know what I mean? And it was crazy because it was just a sappy love story, and I'm not really into sappy love stories, but it just totally changed my mood, like the singing, and there was I could feel like their emotions.
Yeah.
Like I went through their sadness and their joy and all this, and then by the end of the show, I'm like, oh, that was the best thing ever, kind of thing,
Well, maybe it was their. Sometimes it's where the sound comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's heartfelt, maybe they did exactly what needed to be done. Remember, I told you sound runs everything. Of course you can change your life with sound.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm sure the next question is probably going to be already answered, but just to let you know, you can change your life with sound.
All right, this one's a good one. It says, what about phantom limb feelings? Does that mean something is off with a particular chakra, or is it more to deal with?
No.
The mind. More to deal with the
No,
mind.
it doesn't mean something is off. It's ironic how people always go towards the negative. It means that your body's still remembering that etheric part of itself.
Right.
And that may take years to dissipate, or it may never dissipate. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. It doesn't mean anything's off. It means, your body is more than just a physicality. Remember, I told you all earlier, you have 5 bodies. You have a physical body, you have an astral body, an etheric body, spirit and soul body. Those things don't dissipate just because your hand or something else dissipates or goes away. Mm-hmm. They are still there. Now, true that the majority of that energy goes towards other things, because remember, they're formless yet formed, and even then the form is just a temporal state, so they can be, reprogrammed to any place. But that doesn't mean anything's wrong. It means everything's working, actually.
So it's normal to feel that.
Yeah, it is normal to feel that.
I have a question with that, going back to feelings, because you were saying, like, about that play I was talking about. One of the things that got me was that I noticed it seemed like they were really enjoying what they were doing.
Well, that's what gave them power.
So, and again, I'm on all this kick because I'm trying to be, like, more positive and more focused. You know me. Squirrel! That's how I work, I'm in the middle of...
I don't know anybody like that at all.
I mean, I remember one time I'm in the middle of scolding one of my kids because he did something really boneheaded dumb, and then all of a sudden in the middle of it I go, look at that blue jay, and he even said it to me, ADD much?
Any question as to why I have Charlie here? Okay. Okay, because, I've had my squirrel moments as well.
Right.
I won't talk about them, though.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, so I'm trying real hard to get focused and, listening to all this positive thing. And one of the things that keeps coming up for me is the feeling you emote into everything you do.
Well, of course. You said the feeling you emote. First off, emotions and feelings are not the same thing. Mm-hmm. You can't emote feelings. Okay. Emotion is... For those of you that are Vulcan, you understand. Emotions are always based upon what someone did or didn't do.
Okay.
Okay, what they said, didn't say.
So is that more of a reaction?
That is a reaction.
Okay.
Okay, and it's part of a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
However, feeling are based upon the compellence of your own spirit. In other words, that comes from inside. Feelings always have logic that follows them. Okay. Emotions are usually, you said this and that made me, or you gave me this and that made me, or you did this, that made me, that's kind of an illusion. Mm-hmm. However, your feelings, there can be you and nothing else around. And you may be compelled to just sit and feel or enjoy something.
So is that kind of something that comes from you? It's not a learned behavior. It's something that comes from within you.
Feeling comes from within you. It's a compellence of your own spirit. Emotions are something that we learn.
So that would explain, like, since I was adopted, I was the tree hugger. I just had to squeeze every tree I saw.
Well, that was what you were labeled as.
Right.
But it could have been that you just had an affinity for trees.
But it was, but that's what I'm saying. So that was just something from within me that wasn't a learned behavior. It was just something that I had. Yeah. So when we become negative or decide that we hate trees or we turn into grumpy people, that is more of a learned behavior because of the way we are.
When you become a grumpy person, it's usually based upon an experience that you've had, or that someone led you to being that way.
So that's based on emotions again.
That is based on emotions.
Wow, that's a really deep concept to get through.
Well, it's real simple. Here, let me see your hand. Now, if I hit your hand and it hurts, you're going to remember that, right? Mm-hmm. What's that going to cause you to do next time my hand goes up?
Move it.
Exactly. See, it's a learned.
Or slap you first.
It's a learned behavior. Well,
right.
Remember, we all get headshot. It's like you get hit so many times that you start, ducking, or you start looking all around you, or it's kind of like as a martial artist. I've been hit a lot. And after a while, you learn one basic root: block or duck. One of the two. Well, what happens is other people observe you and say, well, that guy's really aware. Mm-hmm. That's not awareness. That's basically, I don't want to get hit. It's just kind of someone raises their hand in a certain way, my condition is to look at them. Mm-hmm. It's a learned response. Mm-hmm. Everything that is an emotion is based upon what you've learned from before. Now, it can be said that the rules of intelligence or intellect is that way as well. Mm-hmm. Intelligence and intellect are two different things. A person is naturally intelligent, and we all are naturally intelligent.
Right.
However, we have learned certain things by enforced discipline or other things. That's what we call intellect. In other words, we learn certain things that we can use in order to call ourselves to be approved, like 2 + 2 is 4. And if you don't, then they tell you that you're not intellectual.
Right.
And the truth is, you may think of it in a different way. For instance, I'm looking going 1 and 1 make 3. Mm-hmm. No, 1 + 1 makes 2. That's ridiculous. 1 and 1 make 3. Mm-hmm. You can't. But okay. For those of you little people that are in school, 1 and 1, according to them, equals 2. Got it? Mm-hmm. Thank you. But we all learn these things that either flip us to one side or another.
Right.
Okay. Some people get stuck in emotions. For instance, I've known some very, very strong, very, very powerful women in my life. And, I can't say that I ever saw them cry. Mm-hmm. But it's a conditioned response or a conditioned way of knowledge to think, well, you're a woman, so you cry. Mm-hmm. Guys cry too.
Right.
The difference is when women cry, unless something truly, truly hurts, it blinds them. Mm-hmm. Can't see beyond crying.
Right.
It's better for them to logic their way through it. Mm-hmm. And I've seen some very powerful women, well, what? It's not okay to cry? Mm-hmm. That's not what I said.
Now, I have a question, because this whole emotion and feeling things is really interesting to me. Especially talking about the chakras and being blocked or whatever. So could someone being forced to act contrary to their natural feelings result in negative emotions that throw them off?
Yes.
Because they're not being true to themselves. And how do you get rid of that?
Be true to yourself.
But how do you get back to that? So you figure out that, okay, you know how some people get confused about, I'm serious and this is the way I am. But you're really not. You're a goofball inside, and that's okay. But because you were taught that this is the way you had to be, mm-hmm. So now you're conditioned that being goofy is wrong or it's immature or not.
Well, what you have to do is decide if you want to be around those people that are saying that mm-hmm. to you. Okay? Like people say, well, you can't. You're playing video games. Those are mindless. You know what I do with those people? Mm-hmm. I hand it and so if it's mindless, you should be able to do it.
Yeah.
Or people that say, well, you got to get a real job. You can't be a singer. Seriously? I tell you what. Tell people like Celine Dion that.
Right.
You never hear anyone say, well, you got to be serious. You can't play a fireman forever. And in my opinion, firemen are just playing firemen. Mm-hmm. They want to slide down the pole. Mm-hmm. So it depends on a person's perspective, and you have to decide if you want to be around those people that are going to think of you that way.
Okay.
I've always loved the martial arts. I've always loved music. I've always loved dance and film and art. And people, well, what about science? What about science? I'm a pure scientist. That means I want to find out why. Why, how do I make it work? Mm-hmm. If it can be done, and how can it be used to help?
Right.
Okay? So remember something. Art is the mother of science. Don't ever forget that. All these people say, well, it's not science. Ask them what science is. Mm-hmm. 9 times out of 10, they don't know. But I will say this, that we have always been conditioned to learn. Sometimes it's called discipline. It depends on what it is. Right. But I've been taught that discipline is freedom. As I was growing up, I was taught that discipline was something entirely different. Mm-hmm. But then I found out the right way. You see, the more disciplined you are doing something, the freer you are to do it.
Right.
Okay? So, you want to be a musician. You got to figure out what instrument you want to play. And then you've got to work at it. Okay, hold on. There are other questions that want to come through there.
Yeah, it says, how can we learn not to be subject to our emotions? We keep doing that. We keep answering the questions before they come up.
I'm sorry. I'm a telepath.
What is the flower of life?
That is a totally airy-fairy question.
Well, what is it?
What is the flower of life?
Right.
Whatever you want it to be.
What does that term mean, though? I'm asking because I don't know.
Well, if they're talking about the flower of life, what they're talking about is what is that which is going to make you feel most alive.
Okay.
Here's one flower. Do what you love to do, no matter what anyone says to you. I need to say this for a lot of people that are very airy-fairy minded. I'm not. Okay. You can be probably just a wee bit more vague with that question. Okay? That path of life, or that which is going to be the joy of life, is whatever you choose it to be. Mm-hmm. So long as it really is that, and you didn't learn that from some self-help book. Sorry, I'm not much for self-help books at all. Now...
it says, that's what I thought. The guy was telling me it had something to do with circuits, chakras.
Okay. That's nice. Listen. People can call the chakras whatever they want. And I know that a lot of people in America have learned that word, chakra, whatever. I just call them circuits, batteries, if you will. And a lot of the people that I've spoken to that are Hindi or that are Sikh or Muslim very rarely talk to me about chakras. You have to understand something. These are like batteries. Each one of them is like a battery. To say that something is called the flower of life that's according to a chakra is absolutely ridiculous. And that person obviously had other motivations. Okay? Remember, if it's flower, then they're talking about the 1,000-petal lotus or your 7th circuit. But without either one of those chakras, circuits, flowers, you would not be alive. So I guess in that way, they're all the flowers of life. Mm-hmm. God. I hate when people do airy-fairy things. Well, I don't want to hate it. I don't like when people do airy-fairy things. What's that?
So it says, can you explain more about what you mean by airy-fairy?
Has absolutely no basis in reality. How about that? The feather touches the stone on the seventh day of Menorim.
That sounds funny.
And there shall be the great conjunction.
Now let me ask you something, because I know it's weird, because it happens everywhere. I
am the great and powerful Oz.
These so-called airy, hairy, fairy things, whatever. Is that what creates so much
delusion
and incredulousness in anything metaphysical?
It also makes everybody in the metaphysical community that is trying to do something earnestly look like fools.
But you know, it's ironic, because that happens anywhere. I mean, look at religion, based religion. If you look at any religion, you pick a certain religion.
My point, exactly.
There is somebody or something really weird going on that has nothing to do really with that core of that religion, but everybody associates it with that.
Well, the fact that they called it religion to begin with is a perversion, of spirituality. Understand that Jesus wasn't a Christian. I think people forget that.
Yeah, they do forget that.
But...
Just like I found it funny that I was having a conversation with someone and they thought I was way ignorant because I mentioned the fact that Jews believe in Christ. And they're like, no, they don't. Yeah, they do.
There are Christian Jews. There are Jews that are Christian. Yes, they do.
Yes.
Some of them do. Most of them know him as a wonderful teacher.
Right.
So that just shows the person's lack of education. I'm trying to be very, very civil here, but understand that I'm not much for airy-fairy speech. It has no basis. It doesn't... You can sit around and give out platitudes all day and be hungry, and that's not good. You can give out platitudes all day and never do any type of work, and you've got no grounding. And I've seen people fly off, to La La Land with that. That's the kind of thing that sends a person out to Los Angeles because they believe that they're going to become a star just because. Or, I'm going to study my own spirituality and I shall give away all my possessions. Dope. No. That's also the thing that causes a person who just smoked a whole bag of marijuana to believe they had a spiritual experience. Okay? Those kinds of things. Those are what I call airy-fairy. It was the airy-fairy people that did pictures of Jesus looking like a lily pad walking geisha boy or a cracked out Hell's Angel. This is what I mean by airy-fairy. Do you know that there's a really creepy picture of depiction of Jesus in South Portland? I call him Creepy Jesus. But people don't think. And when you're not thinking, you come up with airy-fairy things. I have been called a critical thinker. I have to be critical. I mean, think about it for a second. I can't tell someone, hey, there is snow on the mountain in the northeastern part of the world. You must go and seek that single snowflake of knowledge. You know what the person will do, right? They'll go looking for a snowflake, someplace, freezing their behind off. And then when people ask what they're doing, well, a great teacher told me that I must find the secret snowflake. And that will turn into something else.
Right.
So no, I'm not much for airy-fairy. I speak in very plain terms. Right. And if a person doesn't understand what I'm saying, I will break it down for them so they do understand, what it is that I'm saying. Airy-fairy is for those books that say things like, we're hardwired for pleasure. Please, we're not hardwired for pleasure. We are hardwired to adapt. Okay? As humanity, we are resilient. We are strong. We come up with things wonderfully, only if we adapt. If you go around thinking that you are hardwired for pleasure and that the rest of the world is not going to slap you on the head, I got news for you. There's a lot of slappers out there. Okay? What you're supposed to do is be aware enough and grounded enough so that you don't go down that street that you see a robbery taking place only because you want to see what it looked like. Right. Okay? You have enough grounding that says, perhaps this isn't a good time.
I'll come back
Walk the other way.
I'll come back.
You know, don't go try to prove how fantastic a warrior you are, a spiritual warrior you are. For instance, I just turned down the opportunity to be on Spike TV because they wanted me to do an exorcist show and to kick all the demons behind. But they wanted to call the show The Blacksorcist. Not only that, they wanted me to pick fights. I don't want to pick fights with demons. In fact, I could go the rest of my life without ever seeing a demon again. Okay? But that's what they kind of wanted me to do. And I said, I'm sorry, this is not advantageous to me at all. Not only did they want me to do it, but they wanted me to do it for free. I said, and what does my skin color have to do with anything? You don't hear them call it the Whitesorcist, you know, or whatever. So, yeah, you have to understand that the whole world loves something that is not real. However, each one of us has the choice to be real or not to be real. I think Mr. Shakespeare, or whoever it was, because I saw that movie Anonymous, whoever he was, said that to be or not to be. And that's what it all comes down to be. You either want to be something or you don't. And if you don't really want to be that which you say that you would be, then the airy-fairy road is the place for you. We call it the yellow brick road. Okay?
This question says Elysian Fields. Is it just Elysian? Is that correct?
Elysian.
Elysian. Elysian Fields, is it just a place for certain forms of life or for all forms? Do you have to be a great person to get there?
No.
What is it? Explain it to me, please.
The Elysian Fields are the fields of heaven itself. And yes, I've been there. It is the most peaceful thing you will ever experience. I don't mean like lay down and go to sleep peace. I mean like everything is good. Everything is fine. It is green. It's golden. It's got beautiful flowers. It's got trees. You know, there's a giant castle down at the end of it. And everyone is moving towards it. It is the most extraordinary thing ever. It's kind of like being shown what you have waiting for you. And it is real. I promise you it's real.
Is that kind of like
and it's not exclusive.
So is that kind of like what some people say they see when they have near-death experiences?
I don't know what I really can't say that. What people see when they have near-death experiences is one thing. I was fully alive when I got to be there. And people have said they see tunnels, they see light at the end of the tunnel. That's their own personal experience. For me, I needed to know that these things, that the Elysian Fields are real, and I got to be there. And I think that's what Walt Disney saw.
Yeah,
I really believe that he was trying to manifest that. And then commercialism got to him.
Right.
But listen, you don't have to be great to be there. You don't have to be small to be there. It is for all people. You know, the interesting thing is we have different skin colors. We have different hair textures, eye colors. But you know, all of that is supposed to be a strength so that we can fight the dragon from every single angle. But in the Elysian Fields, it didn't matter. There was no reference to it.
Which would make a lot of sense because that's anybody that has actually studied the Bible or any of God's teachings.
The Bible didn't even have anything to do with it either.
It didn't. That's my point. It's so neutral that it never mentioned any of that in that context. So it goes to show that God is all loving, which would make sense because we're all His creations.
What I'm trying to show you here is that because we're in a finite form, we believe that God is separate from us in a way.
Right.
But in the Elysian Fields, we all become God.
Right.
And God is us. It's an entire thing, and I got to be there. It seemed like a very long time, but it was just a few minutes. because I woke up and I had to go to work.
Yeah.
And, I had the greatest night ever. It's just, I'm promising you that it is real. And you can call it whatever you want to call it. I knew it as the Elysium Fields. And that meant that my lifetimes have all been the culmination, or all of my lifetimes are one. Even the ones that haven't happened yet. And they gave me a glimpse into what it is that or where it is that I will be. But then in another echo, I'm someplace else. But I promise you it's real.
That's awesome. This one's about dreams. Awesome, love having dreams, but doctors say you are not getting enough REM sleep. What is your opinion?
Not getting enough REM sleep. Well, that depends. I don't believe that it has anything to do with your dreams. I think it has to do with your waking state. Are you overly stressed? Are you not getting enough exercise? Are you not getting enough to eat? Are you not getting things done the way that they need to be done? Is there no spiritual content in your life? I doubt seriously that it has to do with REM sleep. That's ridiculous. However, there are the doctors. My area and expertise is just in metaphysics. Oh yeah, that's right. Dreams are metaphysical.
Physical, yes.
Listen, I can only tell you what I think. You're supposed to follow the instructions of your doctor, but I don't see that he's giving you any instructions because doctors really don't understand, at least not physicians understand the realm of dreams. Rapid eye movement, that's what REM means. Okay, your eyes are going all over the place because you're imaging. If you're dreaming, you're getting plenty of REM sleep. Remember that. Rapid eye movement is a result of you visioning or visualizing. Your physicality is trying to keep up with what it is that you're seeing. So, he's wrong. I tell him that to his face. He's wrong. But it has to be something else. So think about it.
Can I ask a question about dreams? What happens when you know you're dreaming, but you can't remember them when you wake up?
That's just a separation in your dream body and your physical body. If you know that you're dreaming, that's called lucid dreaming. And maybe that lucid experience is a little too much for your physicality to process.
Okay.
That's what that is.
Is there a place beyond heaven?
I don't know. And that's the truth. I don't. Because heaven is all-encompassing. As far as I know, I'm sure there is if you have the Starship Enterprise. I can only tell you, remember, heaven is the culmination of all verses within the song. So, I don't know if there is or if there isn't. It'd be great to find out, though.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. Going back to the Elysium Fields, are they the same as Nirvana?
That depends on what you think Nirvana is. The Elysian Fields are the Elysian Fields. Nirvana is Nirvana. I think that they all have the exact same energy. Well, no, I can't say that. They have similar energy, so to speak, but I can only tell you about the Elysian Fields because I've been there. Nirvana, I didn't even think about the name of the Elysium Fields. I just knew that that's what it was. I'm sure that those that have been to Nirvana can tell you what Nirvana is. I know that Nirvana is a version of heaven, so I would imagine so. I can only tell you what I know. I know the Elysium Fields exist, and that may be because I wanted to be there, or a part of me exists there. Maybe a part of you exists in Nirvana.
It's funny because when you were talking about the fact that when we go to heaven, we become like one with God, we become God. Again, going back to the scientific basis, it's like we're always taught that every bit of energy is interconnected to every other bit of energy, and we're all one. Energy can never be produced or destroyed, it just continues. or changes into another form. Why do you think it's so difficult for people to believe that you are part of God and God is part of you?
Because of what we've been taught. Remember, we've been taught that there has to be a greater and a lesser. Even our educational system was actually built in order to separate people.
Right.
Those who they want to have and those who they don't want to have. You know, because if you think about it, someone who may not be doing really, really well in math may be excellent in another form of math, which is science, but, you know, or form of science rather, or even a musician whose whole existence is based upon numbers.
Very true.
You know, so it just depends on what the structure of our education has been. We think, remember, we've had a very bad history, you know, of masters and slaves, and, you know, people who were far less capable and far less intelligent and far less powerful wound up ruling those that were more powerful only because of their nature and their avarice, you know, just doing things like shooting people when it wasn't called for, things like that. You know, so our structure is based upon what is greater, what is lesser. We say God is greater, and you can say that, and that we are lesser. I don't really think of it that way. I think of it in the way that God is all-encompassing. Goddess is all-encompassing, and that we are a part of that power. And we have bits of that power, and perhaps it is up to us to evolve so that we become aware of all of that power, and then become aware of the greater good. And then, once we're ready for that stage of evolution, we operate in that greater good all the time. So that we understand, not only are we one, but we are one.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Very true.
you get rid of the what's greater and what's lesser.
This is a good question. I think actually these are two separate questions, but they kind of have the same thing. It says, why is it so hard to manifest money? If you can manifest other things, why is it so difficult? Is it so hard to manifest money?
Again, because we have a greater and lesser standpoint. Now remember, it wasn't God that created money. That was the other guy. Or if you choose to think of it in concept and energy, one energy is supportive, one is not supportive. It's really interesting. You ever notice that some of the worst people have all the money?
Yes.
I mean, and then there are people who are striving to do diligent and good work that have the hardest time. I mean, it doesn't happen that way all the time. But, for instance, when people need a person like me to bail them out of hell, they will do whatever it takes to get out of hell that I tell them to do. But the moment that I ask them for money, all of a sudden, well, I'm out of hell now. I'll do that next Friday or the Friday after that.
Right.
You know, and it's because they believe that my type of work is supposed to be done for free. But you don't go to McDonald's and ask for a hamburger and expect not to pay.
Right.
You know, but it's kind of like this. When it comes to money manifestation, we have different ideas. Some of us have been born to very, very poor families and don't know what it's like. We have no concept of what it's like to have a lot and a lot and a lot of money.
Right.
Then there are other people that grew up as when their fathers are owners of banks and have that concept and have been taken care of within that concept. So it's very easy for them to manifest things, money. Some of us can manifest things and not money.
Right.
Some of us can manifest money and not things. Some of us can manifest this, but we can't manifest that yet. But it does take discipline and it does take practice. But also, remember that as a whole, if you want something from someone, be fully willing to pay for it. Don't go and tell them, well, I don't have a lot of money. You eat every day.
Right.
You do this every day. So when it comes to people that are doing something good, don't sit up and tell them you don't have any money, but then go to McDonald's or go to this extravagant vacation.
Plus, I guess, too, the reality is that if all you're focusing on is being broke, well, obviously the universe is going to be like, okay, you're broke. because that's all you're thinking about. You're not thinking of ways to
that
make...
works only in theory, but the truth is that there's some people who think about being rich every single day, and they're still broke. Sometimes it has nothing to do with
Do you think it has to do with like lack of action? Because it's one thing to say I want to be rich, but then not work towards it, or is it something else blocking them?
There are people who work every single day, and I know that there are people out there that work every day, work themselves to the bone, with great dreams. Since you have to break through a lot of other things.
Through the learned behaviors?
Not just the learned behaviors, but the enforced behaviors.
Right.
Remember, if you're like this, come here. If you're like that, and all you want to do is raise your hand,
right,
that would be very simple, wouldn't it? But there are things that are around you that are causing you not to be able to.
Right.
True, eventually, if you, with enough diligence, you will be able to lift your hand.
Right.
Okay? But it does take diligence, persistence, and support from other people. You know, we like saying things like, it takes a village to raise a child. You know, things like that.
Right.
No. It takes a village to raise a child, but it takes that village being in cooperation with each other.
Right.
Okay? And it takes the same thing for people who are not children anymore. Someone has to come along and see what you're doing. And say, you're trying to get your hand up, aren't you? Can I help?
Well, doesn't it go back to why would you want to have these negative people in your life if they're just constantly reinforcing the things?
Very, very true. But then you have to apply that effort, and then when someone does come and say, well, why don't you let me help you? You can't sit up and say, oh, no.
I'll do it
all by myself.
I don't need you.
I don't need you. I want you around. You say, look, I don't want anything. I just want to help because you look like you're having a hard time.
Right.
Well, then you have to have enough wherewithal to say, okay, if you can help me out. Okay? For instance, I can do the show by myself.
Right.
But it works better if you're here.
Right.
Do you know why? Because we have a great dynamic. And what do I teach? 1 and 1 make 3.
Right.
Okay? Common sense, right? And you say, yeah, I want to do this show with you. What am I going to say? No, I don't need your help because I'm a unicorn, because a unicorn is only one. You know, one. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So what do? I asked her for help.
But see, that's funny because that's the biggest problem people have. They keep saying, oh, I work my butt off and I never get anywhere, but they're not willing to ask for help or accept help from people that have already done or want to do the same thing.
And our structure, financial structure within this country is to not help. You know, you got great credit, but you don't make enough money. You make enough money, but you don't make enough money our way. You know, so, and what that does is it causes a person to not try.
Okay, we went over it, but we have one more question. Do you want the question?
Yeah, I want the question.
Okay. Are God and the devil related because they hold an immense power over people, or are they two separate entities? There is always good and bad, yin and yang. How is it they come about such power?
Okay, first off, yin and yang don't mean good and bad. Whoever told you that's a dork. Okay? It merely means positive and negative.
Right.
Up, down, left, right, front, back, in, out. According to Scripture, God created the devil. And I'm leaning more towards that. You know, it's kind of like you created a child, the child's a monster. Okay? You're related, but that child decides to go in a totally different direction than what you want them to go. Does that make them evil? Maybe, maybe not. You know, parents make a lot of excuses for children. You know, there's a child up in a clock tower taking shots at people.
Right.
Oh, but he was such a good boy. Maybe he's just having a bad day. No, maybe he's crazy. Okay? Maybe he wanted to do that. He's evil. Okay? It just depends. You know, so in that way, I would say yes, they are related. There's always been evil. There's always been good, as far as I know. Actually, that's not true. There was a point in time where there was no good and evil, and then it split. For whatever reason, it split. And then those energies took on lives of their own.
Right.
And they're very hungry, both of them. However, it does give us an option. We must decide, use our free will. I don't speculate much about God or the devil. I speculate and think about things that have to do with the God and the devil on the inside of myself. I'm not looking for some separate personage. I have to deal with these things in myself every single day, especially if I'm riding behind some Volvo driver that decides that they've got all day to get someplace.
Don't get me going on the Volvo drivers.
You know, there's a traffic jam, Volvo driver, what's the other one, Subaru, or minivan. One of those three. Although I do know a person who is a minivan driver that's kind of psychotic.
Hey, I don't have a minivan anymore.
You know, so, yeah. I mean, listen, they are related.
Says here, remember to join us every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time on unicovianet.net.tv. www.unicovianettv.com. Questions can be submitted in advance to questions@asktheunicorn.com or ask live via chat room during the show. For information about classes with a Z, please visit www.unicorn-cove.com/classes / classes.
And also, another reason is because in order for me to read all of that, I have to do this. Because I'm too vain to wear glasses. But, you know, I have to say goodnight to all my homies. If you're up right about now, I hope you're enjoying your vacation. And I look forward to seeing you all. You all know who you are. Rosberg family, Brown family, Bradine family, Holdren family. Let me see. I better not forget anybody because I'll hear about it.
I have to get you a list.
The Lipton family, and everybody else, the Florida family, everyone else that is there. Mindy, if you're watching, all the other people, you know I love you. And thank you all for putting up with our rantings tonight. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. Until then, I'm Ohurizi Deliza.
I'm Charlie Alejandro.
Thank you for coming to Ask.
Have a good night. See you next week.
Namaste.